This year was jam-packed full of dramatic shots that we're probably never going to forget.
You're kidding me.
Many of them on the biggest stages the game has to offer.
Have you ever seen anything like that in your life?
It had everything from the tense, edge-of-your-seat moments
Has he judged it?
to pure disbelief to what your eyes have just seen.
Trying to play the same shot. Has he gone in off?
Please tell me he's not fluked it. Please tell me he's not fluked it.
He's missed it. Wow.
But this isn't about the most outrageous and ridiculous shots of 2020.
A hit and hope, and I'll tell you what.
No, we're looking to recreate the greatest shots of the year to find out which is the best of the best.
But this time, because all of these shots are about as hard as it gets, I'm going to leave picking the best shot up to you and focus entirely on playing the shots as accurately as possible and in the least attempts.
I wanted to pick the 12 best shots of the year from 12 different players, but couldn't narrow it down, and that's why I've got more than that, and some players have more than one shot. These were chosen from your suggestions and the best shots from previous videos. So what exactly is shot 1?
Blue from Mark Selby.
It was fairly unanimously agreed that this was a shot of the UK Championship, Mark potting the blue and spinning the cue ball around 2 cushions to split the reds perfectly, before going on to make the clearance. I need to strike the cue ball with exactly the right amount of spin, low enough to strike the correct part of the bolt cushion, but with enough side to put it on the correct path to catch the reds.
Don't think I can count that, can I?
This is such a difficult shot that I'm not necessarily looking to play it perfectly, just play it in a way that I'm going to leave myself a red I can pot. This left me a tough pot in the middle pocket, but I got it and I got into a position where I had a real chance of making the clearance. A difficult way to start, but these are all difficult shots.
Two rocket Rons.
Ronnie played 2 shots this year that I really couldn't ignore. The first of these was this Judd Trump-esque shot from the Northern Ireland Open, where he managed to successfully navigate the bolt colours and get himself back on the reds. This shot requires a lot of backspin and left-hand side, and is another one where you have to strike the correct part of the cushion with the exact amount of side spin. However, it's a little bit easier because you need as much side spin as you can possibly get on the cue ball. Although I think the pot itself is a little bit harder than the Mark Selby shot. Even though this is an exhibition shot, it's a difficult one to get right no matter how many times you try it. The next shot is a little different, although a lot more significant, as getting this safe is probably the shot that won Ronnie O'Sullivan the World Championships this year. To play this shot, all I need to do is find the right line around 2 cushions with a small trace of right hand side. However, I've got to be very accurate in the way I strike the red. I'm looking to knock it to the side cushion and get the snooker behind the pink and the black, and to do that I need to hit it very thin on the left hand side as we look at it. It's more than likely Ronnie was just playing this as a pace where he was likely to get the cue ball safe if he missed the red. However, when he played the shot and got it right, it probably couldn't have gone any better. And when you think about it, his 6th world title hinged entirely on the success of this shot.
Judd Trumps.
Just like Ronnie, I couldn't pick a single shot on its own for Judd, and we're going to start with this one where he screws the cue ball round the brown and the green and finishes perfectly on the red down on the top cushion. Getting this shot right really isn't easy. To start off with, I'm going to have to make the cue ball arc around the colours with enough side spin on it to get me back down the table round the brown and the green. My first attempt really wasn't that bad, I just hadn't hit it hard enough, but it turned out hitting it harder made the pot really difficult. This is one of the best exhibition shots of the year for Judd, although we've got 2 to go that are arguably just as good. Which is going to be difficult because I can only just play this one hard enough to get on the red. Remember the World Grand Prix? Well, I thought this had happened over a year ago, but in fact it did take place in 2020, and this was probably the standout shot from the tournament. I've played this shot enough times now to know that all you're really looking to do is try to screw the cue ball back as much as possible, which is easier said than done, but there's also another problem with this shot. Because of the angle and the power it needs to be played with, it's very easy to accidentally impart some right hand side on the cue ball. The right hand side not only slows the cue ball down, but spins it back at the wrong angle so you don't end up in the correct place. But as I played this shot a number of times before, I was able to overcome this pretty quickly and found myself on the red. The third Judd Trump shot is really just him showing off his cue power, screwing the ball back all the way to the blue from this position. To play this, I need to get a lot of things right.
Unfortunately, it's not summer at the moment and I won't quite get the same reaction on the cue ball because it's a little bit damp. So I'm going to cheat and use the shot I played in July.
I'm also not quite cueing as well as I was at the time, and this is probably the best shot I ever struck, so as it took me 11 attempts, I'm going to stick with that.
For Jordan Brown.
This is Jordan Brown's perfect snooker against Mark Selby, and is a shot from the World Championships that I struggled to recreate more than any other earlier this year. From my previous efforts, where it took me a lot of attempts and I only just about got the snooker in the end, I knew despite how it looked, you don't actually have to play this shot with any side spin. Are you surprised that topspin alone could make the cue ball arc behind the black at this pace? Well, I think I am still a little bit. But knowing this meant I was able to consistently get so much closer to the black, and it meant it was only just a matter of time before I got tight in behind it. I kept getting very close, but eventually I got the snooker. Not perfect, but good enough for what I was looking for under these conditions. The background to this is important because in one of Ronnie's mad interviews he said,
you know, if you look at the younger players coming through, they're not that good really. They'd probably do well as half decent amateurs, do you know what I'm saying? Well, not even amateurs, I mean, they're so bad.
So obviously early on in pretty much the very next tournament he came up against one of the youngest players on tour and left him this chance to clear up in a deciding frame. After all that happened, this pressure pot on the pink to get him back into perfect position was one of the most significant pots of the year, and I was happy to get it first time as well.
Kyren Wilson.
There are a few things about this plant that are impressive. The first is seeing it in the first place because it isn't really that obvious. The second is to have the belief in yourself to actually play it, because if I saw this in a game I'd probably turn it down. And that's before we mention it's a difficult enough shot to play as it is. This is probably one of the best thought out shots of the year.
Joe Perry.
We're back to playing precise positional shots, but this one didn't
What a
even
shot.
have
That's
an
good
easy
to be.
pot.
That'll do nicely.
For reasons I don't fully understand, and please help me if you think you can explain, Joe Perry would only have had to play this shot with topspin to find his way between the two reds. I, on the other hand, had to play this shot with a lot of left-hand side. Not a huge amount, but enough to make the shot a lot more difficult and missable. For some reason, my cushions don't quite react the same as they do on TV, and because it slowed it down, this meant I had to play it a lot harder, so I was fairly happy with the result.
Thepchaiya Un-Nooh.
Talking of creative shots, you don't get a lot more creative than this one. Realising the red didn't go, he manages to pot it off the brown here. This shot leaves the cue ball in perfect position for the black, but it's not really a reckless shot, because he knows if he leaves the cue ball in this position there's no chance of leaving a red on at this end of the table, and he also knows because the blue's likely to get in the way, there's little chance of leaving on the red at the other end. Now, coming up with that idea is one thing, but actually executing it is something else, so I was really happy to get it as quickly as I did.
Anthony McGill.
Anthony had a great run to the semi-finals of the World Championships this year, and this was the shot that really started it all off. 9 frames all with Jack Lazowski, the match was in the balance, but Anthony managed to get down and just about rattle this long blue in, leaving himself perfectly on the pink, or at least good enough on the pink to make it a comfortable pot.
Robertson.
Neil was on for another 100 break in the Champion of Champions before it all went just a tiny bit wrong, but Neil managed to find this double and keep the break going. Again, this is a well thought out shot with perfect execution. I decided to play this shot left-handed. Now I know I could have played it with a rest or mirror flip the table like a lot of you suggested last time, but I felt it's easy enough for me to just play with my left hand. It is more just the chance of hitting it right. However, playing it with my wrong hand meant I didn't get perfect on the black, which I wasn't too worried about.
John Higgins.
Another pressure shot, this time from the middle of a maximum break during the World Championships. No one thought John was on a red here, but not only did he manage to find one, he managed to steer the cue ball onto the black. With this type of pressure shot, I like to get them first time as well, and I did, but my cue ball wasn't anywhere near as good as John's. This is the final shot on the list, and it's something completely different to any of the shots that have gone before it. During the Scottish Open, Mark was in a lot of trouble, but managed to find this mega thin snick that not only got him back safe, but left his opponent in a difficult snooker. It didn't help him in the match much, but it was definitely a memorable shot, and as I found out with my first few attempts, it is nowhere near as easy as it looks. Although I have to say, I think fluking the red on your first attempt is probably more impressive. I was really struggling to play this shot thin enough. In fact, I kept catching the first red far too thick, until eventually I missed it altogether and caught a red at the back that I probably wasn't supposed to be able to see. This actually went pretty safe, but I was looking to play the shot properly, and on my next attempt I managed to hit the right red thin enough this time. Didn't get the perfect snooker, but managed to cover all the reds, so I was happy enough with the shot. In case you can't remember your favourite shot,
here are all the shots again that you can vote for. 12, Mark Williams. 11, John Higgins. 10, Neil Robertson. 9, Anthony McGill. 8, Thepchaiya Un-Nooh. 7, Joe Perry. 6, Kyren Wilson. 5, Aaron Hill. 4, Jordan Brown. 3, Judd Trumps. 2, Rocket Rons. And a blue from Selby. So there we go. Vote for your favourite down in the description and I'll announce the winner next week. But right now I've got to return this thing because apparently it's causing a transport nightmare.
if you want to see me recreate more shots, then have a look at the shot of the World Championships from this year, or find out what the best shot was from the previous 10. And remember, don't just watch play, and make the commitment to becoming a better player by subscribing to the channel and visit the website. See you later.